I went into school thinking I'm just going to be the guy who works at Walmart dispensing glasses, like not a big deal. One site I went to in Utah was a vision therapy based place, but they would catch carbon monoxide poisoning patients that would fly from across the country and be seen at this practice. So I would say to my doctor at the time, well, these people are coming, we're giving them glasses, we're teaching them techniques to help with their vision. What do they do when they go home? And there wasn't really an answer. And that was a big part of what drove me to do a low vision residency, is to say, well, I need to know what happens to these people for the rest of their lives. How do they move on? I was 10 times the doctor walking out of that residency than I was going in.
This is Optometrists Building Empires, and I'm your host, Ankit Patel. Each week, we'll explore the journey of practice ownership and leadership in optometry. Join us for insights and strategies from the top minds in our field. This show is sponsored by My Business Care Team. My Business Care Team helps your office increase revenues, reduce costs, and reduce staffing headaches. Let's build your empire together. Today's guest is someone I'm excited to introduce you all to. He is a low vision and rehabilitation optometrist and residency trained in low vision and ocular disease. He was named a fellow of the American Academy of Optometry and was honored with the Bo Wills Endowed Award for his outstanding dedication to community service. He is bilingual in English and Spanish, allowing him to expand services and access to vision care for a diverse range of patients in his community. He's owner and optometrist of Viewfinder Low Vision Resource Center. Please welcome Dr. Carlos Grandela. Carlos, welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, super interested to hear your story. And with that, what was the most important thing that helped you grow your empire?
It's hard to pick just one thing, but being that I do low vision rehabilitation, which is different than typical general optometry, one of the biggest things that helped me grow the empire was understanding the resources available in my local community. So anybody who wants to practice in low vision rehabilitation should get connected with their local state agencies and local nonprofit organizations. This is a big part of our practice, is what's called vocational rehabilitation. These patients who are somebody who is trying to work but is unable to because of an impairment. Usually there's a state agency. It may not be called the same thing in your state, but it's a lot of setup working with a state agency to get them connected with a counselor, get that counselor to send them out to your office, run through, the regular optometry exam and then low vision care, and then send back out, quotes for, these different devices that will do magnifiers and assistive technology. If you don't have that support structure, you miss a lot of patients who would really benefit from your services. A lot of low vision devices are cost prohibitive and they're not covered by insurance. And so for my practice in particular, that was one of the first things for us, was a really big deal, was to have a relationship with our local resources. And then outside of the state itself, nonprofit organizations. So I partner with the Foundation for Blind Children here in Arizona, as one of the larger nonprofit groups, and where the state and school resources will sometimes miss people. They just get lost in the cracks in the system, or miss a call back. You know how people can get lost to follow up in any kind of a medical practice. The same thing happens in these organizations. The foundation, we call them FBC, they're very good as far as picking up some of those missing cases. And so they have a grant program, they have donations, they have a lot of ways to catch people who aren't able to get through the system in a regular way. So not only am I connected to the state, I'm connected to local nonprofits, and that's outside of the regular patients who are going to come under Medicare or come private pay. And there's definitely more that we can get into, but each state is going to be different. So I would recommend to anybody who wants to practice any kind of a rehabilitative care, connect to your local resources.
So I like that a lot. So what I'm hearing is that pattern of, hey, what's available, what we have locally, and how can we help facilitate that? And that's sort of like the pure entrepreneur, right? It's like, hey, here's a problem, here's a need. How do we facilitate that happening? And so now you made it, you kind of alluded to it state by state. Your state is really good at reimbursing for the services. Maybe not every state is. So talk to us a little bit about like when you, what were some struggles that you had? Like when you were growing, what happened that you didn't expect?
Absolutely. Well, so you have to start with the conversation that I didn't open cold. I bought a practice. And so I came into Viewfinder, which was established back in 1992, had been run by Dr. Lynn Noon, who's wonderful. Dr. Noon was instrumental in passing the bioptic driving laws in Arizona and basically was the low vision person for quite some time. Don't get me wrong, there have been other low vision doctors, but even today, for the state of Arizona, there's under a dozen of us for the entire state. And so this is an underserved kind of service population. So, Dr. Nin's here doing this. I came in 2019, fresh out of residency. COVID happens. I buy the practice in 2020. And there's great bones to this practice, but Dr. Noon had always been looking for expansion. And that's what I was kind of coming in to do until COVID, I think, messed everything up. So I was buying into a practice that had two locations with a dream to open that up, and be bigger. And took some time, between COVID and getting started on my own, which you have to re-credential insurances and everything like that, to get it to the point where it had enough of a patient base to have two doctors in it. So you have the expenses of two offices with really the only patient base of one. And low vision, we're not seeing as many patients as other offices, so we're very dependent on retail. That's a big part of low vision are these large video magnifiers, these specialty telescope glasses, and tools that cost quite a bit out of pocket. So each patient is quite a bit more valuable, but we don't see as many patients as another office. So it was a lot of work in marketing to try and build up our patient base. I ended up hiring another doctor right away, only lasted about 6 months. And it took me about 3 years to find another residency trained low vision doctor. I went through several private practice doctors who wanted to do low vision and really never worked out the way I wanted it to. Either they wouldn't recommend devices or they didn't understand the concepts or any other things got in the way.
I think you're saying something interesting, right? So I heard a couple of things there. One was your overhead was maybe a little bit more than you were expecting when you were expanding.
Yeah.
So when you went to that 1 to 2, it's like, hey, that seems to be a challenge is overhead, and that's a common issue, right? It's like, oh, we have all this overhead, fixed rent, and staffing, but we didn't have the volume. And then the other challenge of that was the expense side. On the revenue side, it was like, hey, how do we get more patients in the door? And then when they do come in the door, how do we make sure that we're taking care of them? They see the value of what we offer, and they're getting the products they need too. And do you see that? Is that where people really fall with low vision? Usually, people start with one location. I haven't heard of too many people do multiple locations of low vision, but that the revenue side, is that where you see a lot of people fall?
That's definitely a big part of it is that um, not many people are willing to travel the way that I am, and that's been a big change for our practices because so in Phoenix metro area, we've got like 4 to 5 million people. I live in Gilbert, which is the southeastern corner. My office is in Mesa, about 20 minutes away. The Phoenix office, dead center of the metro, that's about an hour away from me with traffic. Our first location was Mesa. Our second was in Sun City. It's clear on the other side, the northwestern corner. So completely opposite of where I live. That's where we started was Mesa in Sun City. And it wasn't for a few years that I was able to get out of the lease in Sun City and move us closer to Phoenix. So travel already was an issue walking in the door. But that's kind of what I bought into just to get a job in low vision. It's what I bought into to get the practice. And so I'm starting with good bones in a lot of things, but things I know I need to clean up from the beginning of the practice. So, we go into marketing to try to build this all up, but we're trying to build it in two different sides of the same metro.
So let's talk about let's get a little tactical here today, because I think that would be really helpful for folks. Tell us about your marketing. And so I'm going to frame this a little bit. For folks who don't know, marketing funnels is typically how people, if you hire someone from the outside, they'll create like a marketing funnel. And what that means is that it looks like a funnel, right? You have a lot of people at the top that are unaware of you. You have a few more that are aware, and then there's few more that are like interested, and then you have people who commit, and then people who buy. At each step, it gets slower, slower. So if you look at the number of people there, it looks like a funnel. And so when we talk, we'll use that as a framing here. Where did you find the biggest opportunities in the funnel? Because we talked about a couple of parts: the patients coming in the door, once they're in the chair, what do you purchase and how do they purchase? Where was the biggest opportunity for you? Was it towards the top of that funnel, getting people in the door, or was it more like when they're in like where did you see the biggest benefit? Where did you start first? Can you walk through that a little bit?
So you coming in the door, Dr. Noon already had a great relationship with a lot of the ocular disease specialists. And so in low vision, we're kind of like on the opposite side of the referral basis. Most primary eye doctors are referring to somebody to get them out of the chair and go get services that they need. I'm at the end of the referral chain where they've had surgeries, they've had treatments, and they're at a point where either it didn't work or there were complications or it's a progressive condition. So my job is actually to get out to the ocular disease guys and say, hey, you should know I'm here. When you have a patient who's having functional daily life loss because of the condition, send them to me. And I'm going to take care of the glasses. I'm going to take care of the other things that you don't really do. And it gives them kind of an open door to say, yeah, treatment didn't work. Go see this guy now. And that's a release that I think a lot of the ocular disease guys don't get. So our first big push, and that's what Dr. Noon was doing, was to be in touch with all of the ocular disease guys. And I think that has been the biggest source of our patients and the most consistent one out of all of them.
So I want to build on that more because I think you're hitting on something pretty insightful is the community relationships and referral sources. So I think a lot of times people think, oh, I need to Google ads. I need to do all. Did you ever do any of those paid ads?
Yeah, we've done well. We still have Google ads going. And that does bring in some patients because you will get patients who they're not connected to anybody or they recently moved to the state. So they don't have that setup for somebody to send them over. Word of mouth has been really big for us. I mean, we've tried newspapers, we've tried ads, we've tried, we send out documents to lots of different doctors. I will mail a packet to the same office for years, and then I'll show up one day with like cookies and to handshake, and they're like, "Oh, we didn't realize that you were here." And it's like, we've been mailing. I know exactly where that went. It went right into the trash. So, value of that.
It's funny. We do something similar in our office. So many, many years ago, I had a business where part of their strategy was guerrilla marketing, where we go, is it 50 businesses a day or well, a week? 50 businesses is hard to get to a day. And you say hit them up and just build a relationship with them and say, hey, develop, and that seems to work really well. People don't want to do it because it's hard. But
Yes.
it sounds like that's where you're getting a lot of your benefit is that going and building that relationship with the community doctors. Tell me a little bit about the referrals. Why are you asking for referrals? How do you get more people coming into your low vision practice like that way?
That's the big thing is that we want to hit up these disease places, and they're usually excited to know that we're around. And that's honestly the biggest thing is just nobody knows. Again, there's less than a dozen low vision doctors in the state. About half of those are going to be involved in VA services or in the optometry school. So they're not out in private practice anyway. And then the others who are in private practice, I know of one who's mostly retired, one who can only see a couple patients a day, and then 2 or 3 others who are part-time. They're only gonna do this every once in a while. So I'm kinda it as far as a full-time private practice doctor in Arizona. So the big thing is awareness. It's just making sure that people know we're there, and so most of the ocular disease guys, I know them all at this point, at least know of them if I haven't spoken to them. And the point is make sure they know that we're here. And now we're kind of working more into the primary eye care doctors and make sure they know to refer to us. And that's been kind of the next hurdle to get into. There's a lot more of them and to help them understand why we need specialty glasses instead of just to keep pushing what they push regularly.
I like that. And so now that's the top of the funnel, right? Getting people into the door, getting chairs. How long does that typically take? How much effort did you have to put into it? I know your doctor had already developed some relationships, but I don't think that sounds like more like a crock pot type cooking, not a flash fry.
I agree with that because as I hired that new doctor I had, a few years into the practice, I spent a couple months prior to her coming. I took an hour every morning to go out and do what I call handshakes, where I, drop in. I've got like a sweet treat or something like that. I hand them business cards. I say hi to an office manager, doctor, if I can. And I was using that as a springboard to get back in and do a lunch with the office. And at a lunch, I would, bring lunch for staff and doctors. And bring tools like I've got a bioptic here, bring specialty tools like a pair of telescopes that goes on the glasses. And I would come and hand that to each of the staff and to the doctor and say, I want you to touch and feel this so you can understand what I'm doing and remember it. And if I could do that, they could keep that awareness and spread that awareness for me. That again, that's the top of the funnel, but like you're saying, it's a slow cooker kind of a thing because we did that for months, and I don't think we reaped the benefit of that for 6 months to a year afterwards. Yeah, think about the doctor, remembering to tell people, the cards actually going out with people, the people then calling and making their appointments, those who put that off for other family or medical reasons. Takes time.
Yeah, I like that. Once they're in your chair, how do you talk to them about value of what you're offering with the low vision? Now, obviously, price is probably it can is an issue for a lot of folks, especially nowadays with folks having challenges with budgeting. Talk to us about how you message that and make sure it's valuable and not the concern a lot of doctors might have is, hey, I don't really want to be a salesperson.
Oh my gosh, you hit the nail on the head. I remember a speaker who came in optometry school and was like, "You don't want to be a salesman? Too bad. You're going to be a salesman." And I hated the speech that he gave. And coming into this, when you're taught low vision in school, you're taught what Dr. Noon would call social welfare optometry, that you're going to get everybody on a sliding scale. You're going to get them through the grants and through the state programs. These things are very important. But as a private practice owner, you also have to go at this for a profit, and there are plenty of people who are willing to spend money to get the tools they need to stay independent, to do the things they love. So the whole start of the conversation has to be, what is important to you as the patient? Why are you here? What can I do for you? Is it driving? Is it reading? Is it using the computer? What is vision preventing you, or getting in the way of you doing before? And biggest two are driving and reading in Arizona. And so whole conversation starts with, well, let me help you get to what you want to do. And as we go through glasses, if we can solve it with glasses, great. That's easy. It's affordable. They can move on quickly. If it's not, we get into magnifiers, telescopes, or technology. And I try to give them exposure to multiple options. You have to be careful not to do too many and get the analysis paralysis. But you give them, at least one or two to pick from where you can say, well, here's the advantages of doing a telescope for long distance vision. It's easy to use. You don't have to plug it in. Well, here's the digital version of it. And you have a variable uh, magnification, but it costs more and it has battery life. And how are you feeling about it? And what's your concerns? And we kind of go the direction they want to go.
Hmm. Okay, I like that. I want to change gears just a little bit and talk about how are you dealing with staffing and other challenges? We talked about a little about the financial side. Are you getting reimbursement pressures and challenges in your area or not really?
It seems to me, at least through Medicare, where I'm at, that we've gone up just a little bit in our reimbursement. But the one of the big things is with low vision, you're billing E&M codes, 99 codes the whole time. And so this is all medically based. I'm not doing vision insurance of any kind. If I have a patient who comes with vision insurance, we'll hand them the prescription, say, go to anywhere that fills that. But we know that neither vision or medical is going to cover most of the specialty tools we talk about. So that part of it doesn't get affected nearly as much. And then as far as Medicare and that goes, we have changed our practice model a little bit to deal with the rising inflation. Most of the time, your taught low vision is a long exam. So you see few patients within a day. So I was topping out at 6 or 7 patients in a day. They're 1 hour exams. Follow up might be a little shorter, so you could fit more follow ups in. I have started taking students from the local optometry school, and I now have an exam tech as well. And they allow me to double book. And so I'm booking up to 16 patients in a day. And so that has dramatically increased our revenue because we used to bill just on time. Now we're also billing on the MDM codes, which allows us to look at the complexity of a case and bill on that instead of just billing on time. So we had to completely change our model. And we only did that last year. And it was a dramatic improvement in our practice as far as revenue.
And you went away from a direct And you got more efficiency, right? You basically duplicate yourself. And then you looked at the value you're bringing in terms of complexity. I think that's another big one where people are undercoding. So that's interesting insight too. And obviously, there's a fear of overcoding, but if someone is curious, I imagine they could reach out to you or other folks that are experts in how to code it properly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a big difference for us because when you bill on time, you can bill level 5 codes all the time. So you're maximizing your reimbursement. When you build on complexity, level 5 is like an emergency. So if you're doing rehab care, you're probably not catching emergencies that often. They've been through that whole process. So that was the change. It's like each individual patient is maybe worth a little bit less by billing, but I'm seeing enough more that we're maximizing revenue that way.
Hmm. Okay, I like that. So what about staffing? How do you? I mean, staffing is usually a little bit lighter, but I like you mentioned it a little bit with the residents in the area. How else are you dealing with staffing challenges, or are you having staffing challenges?
It's a good question to ask right now because I'm in the middle of changing things. I won't have students for the next 6 months or so. It's just the way the lottery worked this year. And so I'm having to get an additional exam tech to fill kind of what the students have been doing for me. So, kind of the breakup with our 2 main offices, I've got 2 opticians, I have 2 front desks, I have a remote biller, and then I have 2 pre-testing technicians. And so we're setting up now, we're gonna start working with Weave because we've never been doing texting or anything like that for patients, before. Most of our patients are pretty old, not interested in that, but as the years go by, even our 80-year-olds are on their smartphones, so it's high time if you're not doing texting that stuff, probably good time to start doing it. But so we're moving somebody into a remote scheduling position because of that to manage a lot of what's going on with, that side of things. I'm having to get an additional exam tech to keep us on this double booking that we're doing. And I'm in this process of hiring an associate doctor. So I've got 2 part-timers to help fill this other office. I'm at a point, we're booked out 8 to 12 weeks that we're kind of ready to add a couple more days. So while I could probably have a traveling staff that goes along with me from place to place, um, I need staff that stays at their location so that I can get another doctor to fill those spots when I'm not there. And ultimately, that will raise our revenue while keeping our expenses pretty close to the same.
I like it. I like it. Um, so what are you most excited about with two things? One, your locations, and two, the industry. And I'll let you take that where you want to take it. I'm curious to see what you're looking forward to in the future.
That's a great que there's too much to talk about with that. As far as the industry, we can see AI changing a lot of things. It has revolutionized low vision as well. So, for a long time, have dealt with what's called assistive technology. You'll have tools that will read something out loud to somebody who's blind. So we had a device that we sold for years called the OrCam. It was a little camera would attach to glasses and you would touch it and it would take a photo and it would read out loud to you what was in front of you. So imagine somebody who's got hand motion or less vision, they can't read their mail, they can't go anywhere. Like this is a huge tool for them. It costs about $4,000. And so you imagine at a day and age where the standard family in America can't spend an extra $400, how are they going to spend 4,000? So then along comes the Meta AI glasses over this last year or two. It will do the same things for a tenth of the cost. And so a huge change for our patients who previously we would talk about tools, they would go cost prohibitive. We can't do it. I'm now doing Meta Ray-Bans glasses all day, every day, because it's so applicable to so many of my patients. So it's been exciting to see how that industry has changed. We wouldn't have really predicted that as a low vision thing. That's exciting to see. It's exciting to see where the clinical trials are going in retina, where they're doing retinal transplants for macular degeneration. So, the way that a cornea transplant could save somebody from blindness, there's potential, in the next 10 years or so, maybe retina is going to be able to do that. These would be huge changes to how I practice because it's going to be a lot of follow up after surgeries. We like to think that that kind of a solution is going to fix everything, but plenty of people with cornea transplants I have to see later because the vision only gets so good. It's much better than blindness, but it's still not 20/20 vision.
Gotcha. You said something interesting that's pretty creative that I hadn't thought of, like using Ray-Ban meta glasses for folks with low vision.
It's not what it was made, not at all. And there are now competing companies. So I've talked to a couple manufacturers out of China, and then there's ones here in the United States who are trying to make a version that's just for people with vision loss. But I think Meta has caught on to that, and they've added a few things. Like there's a free app called Be My Eyes where you can call another volunteer, another human being. They'll look out of your camera and they'll read something to you. And you hang up and you move on with your life. Meta has integrated to that. So you can say to your Meta glasses, hey, call a volunteer, and they will see out of your glasses with you. And so for somebody who's blind, like that's revolutionary.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I want to shift gears just a little bit again, and I want to understand, what makes you tick? Like, what makes Carlos tick? Um, what Share with me a story that was formative for you, like it made you who you are today.
I'm very much a family man. So I've got a wife and 4 kids. My kids are ages 4 through 10. And so when I'm not here busy in the office, I'm at home busy between swim practice to dance to, church and different things. And so I've always been a family person. I was the fourth out of five and went into optometry just trying to find a career that was going to help me provide for a family. And I went into school thinking I'm just going to be the guy who works at Walmart dispensing glasses, like not a big deal. And I will use the rest of my time for things I actually care about. And as I got into school, Southern College of Optometry in Memphis is very big on vision therapy and pediatrics. And being a family guy, I was really big on pediatrics. I fell in love with vision therapy. It's usually for kids that have trouble reading, have crossed eyes, that kind of a thing. And in my fourth year, my last year of school, you do rotations. You go to different sites. And one site I went to in Utah was a vision therapy based place, but they would catch carbon monoxide poisoning patients that would fly from across the country and be seen at this practice. And it just blew my mind that, these stories I would hear families who would walk in the door at home and everybody passed out because there's carbon monoxide in their home. There's no detectors or anything like that that they, had installed. Many people don't have this in their home. And people die from it. People lose vision from it. They lose other functions like a stroke. It can do a lot of different things. So I would say to my doctor at the time, well, these people are coming. We're giving them glasses. We're teaching them techniques to help with their vision. They're going back to Detroit, to Atlanta, these different places. What do they do when they go home? And there wasn't really an answer. And that was a big part of what drove me to do a low vision residency, is to say, well, I need to know what happens to these people for the rest of their lives. How do they move on? And I did a residency at the Chicago Lighthouse for the Blind and Illinois College of Optometry. And I was 10 times the doctor walking out of that residency than I was going in.
That's pretty interesting, right? Usually it's like, usually there's some disease state interest, but you're like, I'm just going to be just a normal glasses guy. And you were in Memphis, is that right? Southern Optometry, right?
Southern College in Memphis. Yeah. Loved it, by the way. Great barbecue.
Yeah, yeah. I've been in that area. It's good barbecue. Interesting
Yeah.
spot where it's located, but yeah. So I'm curious, if you had to give your younger self advice, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger self graduating OD school?
That's a great question. Um, I don't regret anything that I've done as far as the business goes. You know what I tell myself was to go buy a house back in 2019 before the housing crisis. But as far as business and optometry go, well, I love the career path I've picked. I love my specialty. It would be interesting to go back and open cold. I was between going to Utah and opening cold. Utah really has little to no low vision service there at all. So I should go up, but I do satellite visits up there now and again. I was between going there or starting with Dr. Noon in Arizona. And it would be interesting to go back and go through the open cold process instead. And instead of trying to build off of a foundation, maybe had some cracks in it and we had to rework a little bit to build my own foundation first. And I'm sure there's a whole bunch of pitfalls I would have run through with that, the same that I have here. But that would be an intriguing thing to walk through.
So I'm curious if folks want to, like, let's say they want to reach out to you or find out more, where can they find you and reach out to you?
Yeah, so our clinic website is viewfinderlowvision.com. So we have a whole low vision retail store on there. You guys can look at different low vision devices if you want to. You can reach out to me that way. Anybody who's watching your podcast, though, reach out to me personally at cgrandela@viewfinderlowvision.com. I'm always happy to talk about low vision. I am speaking at Academy this year in Anaheim. So I'm on Wednesday. I'm like one of the first ones on Wednesday. So if you're there early, you can come find me there. But otherwise, reach out to me at any time. I'm happy to field questions or have a longer conversation.
I love that. And Dr. Grandela, thank you again for being on the show.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you for your time today.
I want to share a takeaway that I got from you, Dr. Grandela. I like the focus on community and build with what you got. So, hey, low vision reimburses well. We can do well in our state. You have a network of folks. Let's double down on that and keep working on it. And so, being a part of the community, serving people, understanding that ethos of hey, you're really a community member, and that was a really cool takeaway. By the way, it just happens to be able to build your business too. But it's a community member first, then build your business.
I feel like, the last thing I think I would say is, if you focus on the sales, then you're going to feel bad every time somebody doesn't buy. If you focus on the patient, the sales will come. If you treat them the right way, they know where they can get the help and they'll come back when they need it.
I love it. And thank you, audience. If you learned something, laugh, please share this podcast with a friend and make sure to hit the subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. And if you see the HubSpot link in the show notes and set up a time to meet, I'll send you a free copy of my book, Optometry Redefined. Thank you again, Dr. Grandela. This has been another exciting episode of Optometrists Building Empires, and we'll see you next time. That's a wrap on another episode of Optometrists Building Empires. Thanks for joining. For show notes and more, visit buildingempires.live. This show is proudly sponsored by My Business Care Team. My Business Care Team was born out of staffing challenges my wife and I faced together, managing multiple optometry locations. We refined our approach at Classic Vision Care and now offer our expertise to others. If you're experiencing challenges with staffing and you'd like to set up a discovery call, we'd be happy to help you and connect you with the right resources. We'll see you next time.